Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the It's Giving Mystical podcast. Welcome to the podcast for the week of November 22nd. And I kept thinking when I kept pulling the card, I kept going 122, 122. And I was like, no, 1122. So I'm just a little foreshadowing. I feel like whatever happens this week, remember, come 122, come that week, that there's some like tie between those things. This is the first time I am doing this podcast in a video format. I'm a little shy about it, but also really excited about it. And I have these incredible like tech marketing midwives, Joy and Travis, and they always tell me that version 1 is better than version none. And so here we are trying this out. We'll see what happens. I'm sure that it will evolve as it goes on, but like, I got to walk the walk. If I say be brave, I also have to be brave. And I know that this video format is more helpful for a lot of people. And I hope the transmission is as powerful and as clear for you. I did a lot of energetic work around the space, around this moment, around this time on video and on audio together. And I hope that it comes through as a gift to you, as a blessing, as an inspiration to you in whatever way you need it. So where are we? Let's just take stock for a second. This Sun Week that we just are finishing up feels like for me, there was a lot that came up around being seen. Here I am doing a video podcast for the first time during a Sun Week. That's just a really interesting dynamic. In Women's Circle, or actually in Full Moon Circle, there was a lot of conversation around how safe people feel in the world right now. The way that you might have what happened at the beginning of this month, both collectively and individually, might have brought some awareness to your sense of full comfort in a space, meaning like you have relationships or people, and you might show them one aspect of yourself. And something about this month, sun and justice, right? So rebalancing, illumination, bringing light to the places where things are out of balance, bringing light to the places where we might be uncomfortably out of balance. And one of the things that happened was people would kind of be in dynamics that might have a month ago felt fine or innocuous or like not even worth thinking about. And all of a sudden they're taking on this mirror effect of, do I feel safe in this space? Do I even know who this person is? Do they even know who I am? Like, that's the big thing, right? Noticing in relationships where you realize that part of you is allowed and part of you is not allowed. And so that morning glory image was really beautiful because just the idea of the morning glory, right? There's no judgment, there's no value judgment. It's just a sense of when the conditions are right, I open. And when the conditions are not right, I close. And it's as simple as that. And the work that came up for us this past week, or maybe even currently as you're hearing this, it's still echoing into this coming week. The work was, okay, so this is what my body naturally does. These are spaces I naturally feel safe in and naturally feel like I need to kind of protect myself within. And then taking stock of where you're playing into that, and then also taking stock of what your value judgment is around that, and just kind of teasing out these pieces with a sense of curiosity of like, well, if the conditions aren't right in that space, what does that mean? Does that mean I need to be more brave? Does that mean I need to set better boundaries? Does that mean that that space isn't safe for me? Or does that mean that I'm not trusting the thing that I find in that space to be a possible experience of my wholeness, to kind of maybe possibly embrace me? It's like you don't really know how much of you someone can take until you try to give them a little more of you. There's something very courageous and generous in that. And at the same time, balancing that, the discrimination of, is this the right place to experiment with that? Am I safe here to experiment with that? So all that came up in the sun. And what I hope for you is that you found places where your brilliance, your beauty was a little more allowed. It really kept, I'm doing this beautiful class with Kim Krantz called Creatively Fit. And there are some incredible artists in this class with me, like incredible artists. And it's interesting to hear when they talk about doubting themselves, because this message keeps coming through. Like, how could I do it? How could I focus on my art? How could I take the time? How could I put this weird thing out in the world that maybe no one wants or understands? And the real challenge, like the pushback when you find yourself up against that kind of ego space is, how can you not? How can you not? And I really mean that, like, that your life has been changed by something you've encountered, art, music, writing, some crazy thing on the internet, some experience you've had that someone created because they were called to create it. Know that what you're called to create, yeah, everybody might not like it. People might think it's weird. There are people who are going to think that are going to have their value judgments about it, whether you create it or not. It's like, why are we measuring ourselves against their value judgment, their perception of who we are, their kind of shadowy projection of who we are? Let's think about the people who really do get our message, who really will understand what we're here to say, the art we're here to make. If you can help one person, like, I know that sounds cliche, but if you can help one person, you can be like a inspiring or softer or more beautiful landing place for some person when they need it in their life, like, how could you not? So I hope the sun illuminated some of the places where you're holding back, some of the places where you maybe could be a little bit more allowed than you have let yourself be. And I hope that in that illumination, there was a little more kind of comfort in your own skin, and or maybe even just the courage, because sun energy is heart spaced, the courage to be a little more generous, to risk a little bit more in the face of following what your heart, your core, your heart is guiding you to create. So that was the Sun Week. Again, we're in this month of sun, month of justice. So we're really dealing with illumination, we're dealing with rebalancing. And don't forget, do not forget that the Sun card is the card of joy in the tarot. Like, it's the card of joy. And if we've ever done work together, you've heard me say this 1,000 times, you might be sick of it. But Gay Hendricks, that book, The Big Leap, he talks about upper limit problems. He talks about how, for whatever reason, and there are many, we don't believe life is allowed to feel good. We limit our own happiness, our own joy, our own like excitement and enthusiasm for life. And he talks about why that happens, and what the culture tells us about that and what our programming tells us about that. But what he says is that joy is like a type of vibrational alignment. And if you could, next time you're finding yourself, I was driving this morning, there's this ginkgo tree that is like a golden bride. Like, I don't know how to explain it. And because of the dry weather, it's held this shape for like a week now. Every time I turn that corner on the way to school, I think to myself, I mean, if there's not a God, I don't know what this is, because it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. The minute you have that sensation, right? So whether it's a ginkgo tree or someone you love or anything that allows you to kind of feel good or soft or expanded or excited or hopeful, notice the way that your mind will kick in to move you on to another track. Well, don't forget you have things to do. What about that email you didn't send? Oh, your back hurts. Like, all the ways we kind of take ourselves off the rails. And what Gandrick says is, just as an experiment, could you let yourself stay in the good feeling 1 minute longer, one beat longer, one moment longer, one breath longer? He's like, the best case scenario, it'll change your life. Like, it will truly change your life. The worst case scenario, you just spent one more beat, one more breath, one more moment, one more minute of your life feeling good. There's no downside. There's no downside. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. So the card, the sun, the card of joy, it's also going to, in this month and in this week, reveal to us the places where we're not allowed to feel good. And it's going to say to us why. And then it's also going to show us the moments that we feel good, how quickly we turn away from that. You will always, always, you will always, life is suffering in many ways. You will always have the opportunity to feel bad if you want to, I promise. It's laid out before you in the world. But what an act of rebellion to say, despite the mess of the world, despite the pain of the world, if I, in this moment, in this breath, am lucky enough to have my eyes open and to feel good in the world, again, like, how dare you turn away from that? How dare you not like embrace that? How many people on this planet would trade places with you to feel joy right now? So if you can feel it, please grab it with both hands and stay there as relaxed as you can for as long as you can. Okay, so speaking of feeling good, we have the Lovers card. That is the card of this week. The Lovers is the card number 6, card of number of harmony, number of beauty, number of love. And the Lovers is those things, but more importantly, it's usually some kind of crossroads, some kind of place where we say, what next? Like, what am I here to do next? I want to draw your attention, something we talked about a lot in the Tarot Mystery School, is if you look at the Lover's card, especially the Rider Waite card carefully, there's three figures on the card. And most people don't see that. Most people just see the kind of man and woman facing each other. And the masculine figure is looking at the feminine figure, and the feminine figure is looking up to the angel. And yes, this is a card of other people. This is a card of boundaries and like reaching towards other people and connecting with other people. But first and foremost, this is a card of how you handle your own yearnings. In this card, so I'm not talking about men and women, I'm talking about masculine and feminine energy. So, for the sake of this conversation, masculine energy is our center, our consciousness is the stillness within us. It is the unchanging part of us that witnesses the world. So one of my classic explanations of this is how you've been looking back at yourself in the mirror the whole time, right? Like your face changes, your experience changes, your environment changes, but that you that's looking back, that's been there the whole time. The feminine is everything else. Like the feminine is every thought, every feeling, every yearning, every movement, every bit of weather, everything that's changing, the constant dynamic chaos and change of the universe. That's out, this is like a cosmic conversation, but this is also a deeply personal, individual conversation. And one of the things that the Lover's card is asking us to do is take stock of how safely, how gently, how fully we hold our heart. So, the feminine in us is the part of us that is ever changing. It is your emotions, it's your thoughts, it's your feelings, your sensation, it's your body, it's your experience of the world. It's like it never stays still. Like, if I can guarantee one thing, life will keep changing, you will keep changing. That is a ceaseless movement. There is something about, and then our masculine is the part of us that witnesses that holds that, and ideally that loves that and creates safe space for that. So when an example is like when you feel sad about something, your divine masculine is the part of you that says, it's okay that you feel sad about that. And I'm going to stay with you, and I'm going to, make sure I put a blanket around myself while I cry and feel sad. It's the part of us that's willing to witness ourselves having the human experience. The toxic masculine in us is, why are you crying? What's wrong with you? Why don't you get over it? Like, why do you let them hurt you? Why don't you get tougher, right? Those are all those kind of wicked voices that we all have. Like, people don't speak very kindly to themselves internally. So this dynamic of like, how is your masculine dealing with your feminine, and how much are you allowing your feminine to reach towards something bigger? So the dynamic in this card is that the feminine being is looking to the sky, looking to God, source, creation, desire, harmony. Like they're looking to make something in the world, to co-create with the universe. And the masculine being is looking at the feminine being like, what can I do for you so you can fully expand into your co-creation? You can fully expand into your gifts. That's just a really interesting dynamic. So yes, we all want like the beloved. We all want partnership. We all want someone who is going to both hold us with tenderness and patience, and also be excited at our expansion, right? Be excited by our beauty, be excited by our radiance. Like we want both and in a partner. You might want a more masculine leading partner, a more feminine leading partner, but really for full partnership, you want someone who can kind of hold both of those things for themselves first and foremost, and then hopefully for you in partnership. So, yes, this card is about us, you and me. It's about, this is my experience. Can you meet me? Can you see me? That came up so clearly in last week's card, that little whispered voice of like, do you see me? Like, can you see me and value me and want me and accept me? How you say that to yourself, start there, and then how you say that to other people in relationship. It's just a really interesting thing to think about this card as a whole system within us, and then also a movement out in the world. When the Lover's card comes up, we are talking about choices. We're talking about a crossroads. So usually the Lovers is coming up where there's some kind of negotiation that needs to take place with, um, yeah, keeping ourselves steady, safe, bounded, and being flexible about like letting something else into that space, incorporating something else into that space. You see the movement in that triangle I keep talking about, the movement of this is what I've known so far. This is how I've known the world so far. And my heart, again, like we have to remember, and this is something that David Data says, that John Wineland says, it's a really key thing to understand about your heart, your feminine being, the feminine within you, or that you are. David Data says that the feminine in you will always want more love, will always want more validation and connection and union, and like will always want to be kind of held more widely, like allowed more, like worshiped more widely. And if you find the perfect partner, like even the only match for that is like the divine, he would say. And even if you find the perfect partner, the perfect like companion in life, they can do everything right and you will still want more. And so the piece to be made is my heart, my feminine, aching, yearning, longing heart is an infinite, like blossoming flower. Like it will never stop wanting more. Okay. But what do I do with what I have now? Because the idea that like somewhere else, someplace else, someone else, you'd be received more is a little bit of an illusion. And so you make peace with the fact, well, my heart will never stop opening, ideally. Like my heart will never stop seeking more experience, more connection, more love. So I make peace with that. And then I think, well, what do I have now? And how could I bring more love, more openness, more acceptance of my desire into this moment? I hope I'm not getting too like wonky, but it's an interesting thing, right? I think maybe, and it's hard, sometimes it's hard for me to say what's what because my life is in a like kind of a uniquely spiritual, mystical like footprint. But I think for most of us, we think that when we get something, partner, job, materiality, like level of success, level of abundance, that our heart will rest. Like we have this sense that if I get this thing, or if I have these things, or if I get to this place, then my heart will stop aching. Like my heart will rest and I will have enough. And the reason we make peace with this, like the ever unfolding, is we begin to realize, oh shit, there will never be enough. No matter how much I get, my heart's mission is to expand. And so it can't get to a place where it's like full now. It's not like your tummy. It's not like I'm full now. It doesn't do that. And so like how do we hold that yearning, longing heart without this idea that it's supposed to be different? Without this idea that like there's some arrival, right? So if we can put that, okay, so there's no arrival. My heart will always want more. I will always long. I will always desire. That's part of the human condition. What do I do with that? How do I shepherd that? How do I hold that with tenderness? How do I regulate my day to day so that my body's taken care of, so that my heart's taken care of, so that the things that I do want are addressed and heard? Like it doesn't mean we get them right away, but it's like to hear your heart, for your heart to say, gosh, I want more love. I want more peace. I want more beauty. And us not to say, well, what are you talking about? Like, no one's got time for that, right? I want more money. I want more recognition. I want more success. And you're like, well, that's not really for you. Or are you like, that's the reframe. So it's not that the heart is the problem. It's like that morning glory. It's not that the opening and the closing is the problem. It's the overlay we put on it of what we're allowed, where we're supposed to open, where we're supposed to close, where we're allowed to open, where we're allowed to close, right? Same thing with the heart. My heart wants more love, more co-creation, more beauty, more harmony. And then well, not in this world, not today, not around here. Have you read the paper? Versus, okay, girl, I hear you. Let's first take stock of what is, and then let's see how can we begin to move to a place where you feel that fulfillment a little bit more, where you're honoring what your heart's intelligence is calling you towards a little bit more. So that's kind of a lot to say about the Lovers card, but that dynamic is really important and it's something we spent a lot of time talking about in the Tarot Mystery School when we were working with the Lovers card, because that feels particularly relevant. Partnership, community, it fails us sometimes. Where you can really like do work around that is checking in with yourself, honoring yourself as its own microcosm, as its own community, and coming to yourself with tenderness, with patience, with acceptance of what is. I promise you that's the warrior's path, and I promise you it will change how you take other people into your space. Like so much of the constriction and tension around other people is because we allow ourselves what's okay with us. So the more allowed you are, suddenly other people's behavior is just like allowed because you realize that in their heart of hearts, most people are doing the best they can. I know that's like people don't want to hear that right now, but there is a way in which we're not rational beings, but we think we're rational beings. So we can take what we feel and we can make a story for why what we feel is rational and right. It's remarkable how we do that. And it's not something you can really debate with people because it's not a rational thing. It's an emotional thing that's been given a rational overlay. Okay, back to the Lover's card. You might be asked to make a choice this week. You might be asked to recognize where you've transgressed boundaries, either towards someone else or in your own environment, where you've reached for someone or something as kind of like a trauma response or a habit, and where you've allowed yourself to be kind of taken as a trauma response or a habit. Excuse me, the Lover's card is really about boundary work and about, again, like what's the ecosystem of your environment? How safe is it in there? How accepted are you within that? And then so when you meet someone else's ecosystem, the kind of the wider your base, the more safe it is in here for me, the more safe I am for other people, the more aware I am of when someone else is operating in a place of safety or in a place of lack, and I can adjust my boundaries accordingly. I can adjust my output and input accordingly. The Lovers at its heart is a relational card, but it's a relational card in that sorry, it's the problem with the video podcast because my phone started ringing and it threw me out of my zone. It's a relational card, but we're talking about relational, starting with relation to yourself. Like you are systems. If you do parts work or family systems work or family constellations work or shadow work, you realize that you are like a cosmos in and of yourself. And so the Lover's card is drawing your attention to your parts, how that system is in alignment, how that system is a place of safety and love and hopeful expansion. And then the more you recognize that, the more kind of you begin to recognize where your safe spaces are around you, where people are around you that allow you to be in that place of fullness versus ask you to take a different shape. And just in my experience, there's something about that sense of integrity that is its own power, its own grounding. And you have to do less efforting around your boundaries because the transmission, the vibration that you're sending out, it doesn't like even fuck with that. Like it doesn't fuck with like whether I'm okay or not because you're so okay that it's like the conversation changes. And so I guess I'm hoping for you in this Lover's Week that you allow yourself to reach for more beauty, more harmony, more love where you desire it, where you long for it, and that you begin to repurpose, recenter this idea of the heart that will always long, that will always want more beauty, more art, more love, more connection. And then the part of you it's their job, it's that job to shepherd that and to allow that and to hold that with benevolent and maybe even encouraging witnessing of your heart and of what you long for. Yeah, choices this week, beauty this week, harmony this week, love this week, boundaries this week, and in whatever way you can, honoring what your heart longs for. Like that keeps coming through here. You need a safe space to hear yourself. And so noticing this week where that maybe gets transgressed and what you need to do to kind of clean up some of those edges so that you can actually hear yourself, hear your beautiful heart. Your heart's intelligence is a wise, wise thing, not a rational thing, but a powerful, wise thing. And so how can you maybe reorient to that a little bit more? Okay, Lover's card. Feel free to put that on your altar for the week. See what comes through for you. And I think that's it. Um, Share this if it works for you. Let me know what you think of the video podcast. I do feel a little bit shy about it, so I could totally use some encouragement around it. And then please do share it with people who might need the guidance or the clarity or whatever you receive from this, and to kind of offer that to someone else who might need it would be really helpful for the world, helpful for me, helpful for what we're building at Giving Mystical. And yeah, things are quiet on our end right now. We're just trying to take care of this transition. I do shaman school is coming up in 2025. I don't talk about, I'm not like a big like lineage talker, but people should know that Stephen is the only teacher from the Four Winds at Alberto Viola that he gave permission to teach the curriculum outside of the Four Winds. Like what Stephen has in Papa Masayuk and the shaman school is pretty remarkable, and it is a pretty beautiful possibility to study with him. And I hope that people, especially at a beautiful place like Salt House, especially with me and some of the amazing other teachers that will be there with him. And I really encourage people, if this is kind of singing to you in any way, to take the step forward towards it. And if not now, don't forget that you wanted it, and find it somewhere where you're ready for it, where it's ready to meet you. Okay, that's it. It's me, Kirsten. This is It's Giving Mystical, and I'm sending you so much love in the week ahead. May you just appreciate more beauty, more harmony, more love, more connection in this week ahead, and may it feel good. All right, bye. It's giving everything is sacred. It's giving art. It's giving light you up and turn you on and set you free. It's giving curiosity. It's giving freedom. It's giving love. It's giving you are more magical and powerful than you can comprehend. It's giving, I don't know what's happening, but I am so here for it. It's giving you are pure potential. It's giving mystical.